Each person has their own unique degree of cognitive rigidity. However, the way we think can absolutely evolve over time. Invite and embrace the evolution. It's quite possible to move through differing degrees of fluidity versus rigidity over your lifespan. As the brains and bodies heal, our minds heal too. We live in an era characterized by civil unrest and polarized ways of thinking. This need for group identity has diminished individual identity, destroyed the concept of nuance, and has set up many false dichotomies. One component of individual differences in cognitive rigidity is related to brain chemistry. Simply put, some people are inherently more susceptible to mental and emotional extremes. And this may be rooted in neurophysiology, which is linked to genetics and one's upbringing, including trauma exposure during childhood and adolescence. Some people are more likely than others to experience all or nothing thinking, which is sometimes referred to as black and white thinking patterns. And this frequently plays out in our relationship to food. However, biology is rarely deterministic. Our minds can be trained to think in new patterns, and we can break cognitive distortions that have prevented optimal mental wellness. Some people are more like water, flowing with the stream of life and adapting to meet the demands of a changing environment. Other people are more like rocks, unable to budge or move through certain situations with flexibility and grace. Meanwhile, it's likely that having attributes of both water and rocks is beneficial for mental health. Other times, it's best to drop the rock. For example, one could be rigid about food and nutrition at one point in their life, only to find themselves more fluid and easygoing later. This is generally an outcome we strive for. Perhaps they developed a list of foods that their mind categorized as bad, but eventually realized that assigning the food with this moral label only heightened their emotional charge around it. Remember to strive for the position of neutrality, safe and protected. And other people might find themselves too easygoing concerning food and health and desperately seeking to incorporate more structure. Structure can be achieved with consistent, deliberate effort. There's nothing wrong with needing some structure. One way to conceptualize the difference between fluidity and rigidity is through discerning between rules versus principles. A rule can be defined as a set of explicit regulations governing conduct within a particular activity or sphere. You might notice that a rule helps create a feeling of safety throughout certain processes. The mind tends to love rules. We've introduced a lot of guiding principles throughout this program. A principle can be defined as a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of beliefs or behaviors. Notice the difference. Rules appear to be very much pass-fail, whereas principles introduce more nuance and interpretation, embracing growth and evolution over time. Rules can promote cognitive inflexibility and, in some cases, increase anxiety around food. The work you've done so far has been designed to reduce your anxiety as an eater. I'm so proud of you for taking this journey with me. A primary aim of the Wise Mind Nutrition program is to help you establish and develop guiding principles that work for you and are flexible enough to meet the demands of an unpredictable life. You're set up for success. You've made a good beginning. If it isn't obvious, we generally prefer principles over rules. This action-oriented program put the decision-making process on you, strengthening your sense of agency as an eater. As you wrap up the 30-day program, you're empowered to develop new guiding principles as your life circumstances change. Many people nowadays are just looking for an expert to tell them what to do. At Wise Mind Nutrition, our goal is to make you the expert on you. This will ultimately set you up for long-term success in eating food for mood and brain health. There's several examples of guiding principles that were offered throughout this program. So here are some examples that recap how guiding principles can be used. Suppose you intended to drink 3 liters of water by 6 p.m. It's now 5:45 p.m. and you've only had 2. But you ate a lot of fruits and vegetables that day along with several cups of herbal tea and just aren't feeling thirsty. Maybe it's better not to chug that additional liter of water to meet your target by 6 p.m. On the other hand, perhaps it's wise to drink that final liter, even though you're not thirsty, simply because you said you would. There's no right or wrong answer here. You can always take this into your nightly review and think about better timing strategies for tomorrow. Suppose you intended for all your meals to contain approximately 40% of fruits and vegetables by volume. You ended up at a restaurant that provided a much smaller portion of vegetables than you anticipated. You noticed there were fresh berries somewhere on the dessert menu. Perhaps you would order a fruit-based dessert with extra berries to ensure that you had a proportionate volume of fruits and vegetables at this meal. On the other hand, maybe you should order a different dessert or skip dessert altogether. Once again, there's no right or wrong answer here. Suppose you committed to eating whole grains on average twice per day. You had oatmeal at breakfast and brown rice at lunchtime. At dinner, you ordered a salad with a wide range of vegetables and salmon on. The entree shows up with some croutons in the salad that was not on the menu description. Perhaps you would eat the salad as it came to you, knowing that the croutons will not make or break your health. On the other hand, maybe you would send the salad back and ask for a version without the croutons. There's no right or wrong answer here, and it could certainly depend on the day or the moment. Suppose you had committed to eating or drinking a dairy product twice a day. You had a quinoa and black bean bowl for lunch that had some feta in it, but no other dairy that day. It's time for an evening snack and you were planning to have some cherries, some walnuts, and a glass of coconut water. But then you realize that having a small glass of unsweetened almond milk instead of coconut water will help you meet your nutritional goals for the day. Maybe you should drink coconut water simply because you were craving it. On the other hand, perhaps you should drink the almond milk because it is a simple swap that'll optimize your intake of nutrients throughout the day. There's no right or wrong answer. Suppose you had an intention of eating more plant-based meals and less meat. Perhaps you purchased some plant-based burger patties and began making these at home and enjoying the way that you felt after eating them. At a social event, only beef patties were available. Maybe you should eat the available food and not internalize any guilt or shame about it. On the other hand, perhaps you decide that you'd rather not eat food that doesn't feel great afterward or isn't in alignment with your values. You have every right to act in accordance with your emerging nutritional identity, and there aren't right or wrongs. Suppose you are aiming to eat pumpkin seeds every day. One day you forgot your lunch at home, which included a salad that had a lot of pumpkin seeds. On this day, you ended up purchasing lunch from a restaurant that had no pumpkin seeds on the menu. You also had dinner plans at a Japanese restaurant where you suspected that pumpkin seeds would not be available. Maybe you should purchase the salted pumpkin seeds from the convenience store and have them as your afternoon snack. On the other hand, perhaps you should take the day off from eating pumpkin seeds. You got the gist. There comes a time when you must start trusting your internal compass and start flowing like water. In summary, shy away from rigid rules if they continue to set up feelings of failure and only heighten your anxiety around food. If some degree of rigidity works for you, follow the rules you set for yourself. That should feel pretty good. There's no shame in needing discipline, especially at the beginning. For people with an addiction-like relationship to food, discipline can be the key to success. Use the guiding principles you learned and selected throughout the program for a more gentle and sustainable approach to eating. Don't become too attached to any guiding principles. Instead, let them guide you as you grow and evolve as an eater. If you've historically been a rule person, maybe now's the time to lean into more guiding principles. If you've never had much discipline in the physical dimension of wellness, perhaps some clearly defined structure will help you move into this next chapter with grace. Everyone's different. Don't take on someone else's story. Do you. Celebrate you. Be a part of the collective healing where nuance prevails. Reject false dichotomies and reclaim your individual agency and your nutritional identity. We're all individuals embedded into the context of a larger ecology we call society. But remember who you are. We don't just live in nature, we are nature. Embrace it.